There's a lot of stuff going on in the world. If you're, affected by it, this is a perfect opportunity to really utilize the practice of meditation and the philosophies of the yogis to create some sort of internal balance between the circumstances of nature or the external, and then the circumstances of the internal. And while they're connected and obviously they impact one another, we can choose to stand more firmly in one or the other. And as always, the tendency as human beings, as living organisms, is to stand firmly and most committedly to the external. But the catch with the external is that there's always going to be strife. There's always going to be some dimension of imbalance. There's always going to be, especially for living organisms, there's always going to be an experience of hierarchy and power struggle. It's just the nature of the world. And for me personally, the beauty of these meditative philosophies is that we can embrace and tolerate, more than just tolerate, but actually embrace the nature of the world. There's a reason why Darwin coined the process of evolution as sort of survival of the fittest. Resources are always limited. The innate drives of individual animals, individual organisms, is to ascend hierarchies. So when we can look out into that, we can embrace it. But it doesn't mean that we still don't look for peace and that we still don't hope for this proverbial Eden or paradise. And again, if we can rely upon the philosophies of these spiritualists, these ancient spiritualists, they say that desire is really a desire to find yourself, to look inwardly. And that's just not a contemplative act, thinking about looking inwardly, but still sort of working towards our egos or our reputations or our identities, but very literally looking inwardly by shutting our eyes, stilling our bodies, slowing down our breaths, and redirecting our attention inside. Cool. So you've heard this all before from me and more than likely from other meditative sort of voices. What we're going to get into today is mantra. And so mantra is just the repetition of select words or phrases that are used for multiple reasons, and I'm going to highlight three. The first reason is for contemplation. So each mantra is, sort of this condensed sound or this simplified languaging of higher thought. And so we talked about the Om last Wednesday, and that within that symbol, within that sound, there's all of this meaning. And so if you take the time to study what the mantras mean individually, you can use the mantras as fodder to think about these grand ideas, and in that these huge ideas that aren't necessarily natural become a part of your psyche, and they change the way you interact with experience. And so for the first reason of mantra is contemplation. The second reason of mantra is sensation or sensitivity. So especially when you are chanting mantra or singing mantra, it creates resonance in the chest, very similar to the vibrations that we try to create through breathing and the respiratory exercises. And so as you sing, when anyone sings, especially singers, they'll feel this resonance in their respiratory system, and that helps them become more sensitive to the subtle sensations of the body, which is the big effort of meditation. Feel, don't think. As simple as that is, it obviously proves itself to be very difficult. And so that's the second reason for repeating the same word or singing the same sound over and over and over and over and over again. And then the last reason is concentration. This is part of singing or chanting, but I find that it's most pronounced when we internalize the mantra and speed up the cadence of the repetition. We essentially hijack the language center of our brains so that whatever conversations our brains are naturally generating, we are imposing the mantra into that conversation, so much so that we don't let our brains and our language centers have the chance to distract us or to encourage us to ruminate or fantasize or judge or analyze, which tends to be the grief of the psyche. We ruminate on things and we fantasize about things, and in that, unbeknownst to us, we separate ourselves from the truth of reality and our experience. Cool, so one more time, mantra is the repetition of select words or phrases. to contemplate the meaning of the word or the phrase, to feel the body with greater sensitivity, or to develop pronounced concentration. And so the mantra we're going to use today is Om Namah Shivaya. We talked about Om on Wednesday, and so I'm not going to really get into its meaning. We'll talk more about Om on the Wednesday to come. Namah Shivaya is praising Shiva, which is one of the three main gods of the Hindu pantheon. And he is the god responsible for destruction, but also transformation. And so that's his cosmological expression. And all this means is that the Hindus and the ancient peoples of the Indus Valley civilization, they looked out into the world and they realized that everything collapses. Empires collapse, regimes collapse, our routines collapse, our lives collapse, relationships collapse, our TV shows end, conversations end. Nothing is immune to like its end or its demise. And that force is what is known as Shiv. And they embodied that force and sort of personified it in the form of a human so that we could relate to it more easily, so it didn't become so overwhelming or so overpowering to us. And so that's what Shiva represents cosmologically. But very much like Jesus, if you go to India and you sort of speak to those that honor Shiva, and you really commit to him as a yogi, they believe that Shiva was a man that probably existed around 5,000 years ago, who was essentially the first yogi. And so his other name, his moniker, is the Adi Yog, the first man, the first person to seek unity with the divine. And this is really the heart of this mantra. So it's Om, consciousness, illusion, truth, Namah Shivaya. Let me praise the first person that took the initiative to look into themselves and look away from the external world. And so if we get into that contemplation piece, it's like, we're going to sing this mantra and repeat it in our head today. The contemplation angle would be, I'm honoring this legacy of looking inwardly, and in that maybe I'll have the chance to experience Om, to experience a truth beyond my perceptions of truth. Cool, so that's what that means. We're going to sing or chant the mantra for about 8 minutes. So I'm going to sing that for you in a moment, and then we're going to repeat the mantra in our heads internally for the remainder of the class. This is what the mantra sounds like. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. One more time. Om Namah Shivaya. Cool. So you don't have to sing that loud. It can be very quiet, especially if there are other people, sleeping in your home. But the point when we're singing is to increase the sensitivity to our bodies, to create sound, right? To create a voice. It depends on wind moving through our windpipe and our vocal cords. Our vocal cords are two tiny flaps that vibrate. That vibration is physical and it resonates in the body very literally and physiologically. And all you're trying to do when you sing, it's not about the singing, it's not about the contemplation, is you're trying to learn how to increase your sensitivity to the organism that you are. And there's some romance in that. The fact that we can't feel our own being deeply, it's sort of tragic. And to take the initiative to learn how to feel and communicate with your body through the sense of touch, tactically, is a beautiful thing in and of itself. Okay, so we're going to do that, and then we're going to repeat the mantra in our heads fairly quickly, just to give you a sense of how we're going to repeat it very fast. Om Namah Shivaya, 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 in the head incessantly, like a hamster spinning in its wheel. And at that point, it's about hijacking the language centers. Cool. So this is mantra. This is a very powerful dimension of most meditative practices. Its more esoteric definition is secret words. That mantras weren't known commonly, but those that knew what the mantras meant and what they represented and how to use them sort of perceive them as sophisticated and sacred tools for someone who is committed to developing their minds. And that's an extraordinary gesture, especially for people thousands of years ago. And it proves extraordinary for people today too. So, uplift your idea of what you're doing. It proves to be empowering. Cool, everyone. Let's get into it. Comfortable seated position. Wrist rests on knees, straighten your arms completely, hyperextension of the elbows. And then take the time to spiral your elbows all the way down so they're pointing to the floor. Spread your fingers wide and then spread your fingers wider until the skin of your palms becomes taut, like the head of a drum. Shut your jaw, press your tongue into the back of your two front teeth, and ever so subtly tuck your chin down to decompress the back of your neck. And now let's bring the first fingers that come to mind to our thumbs. And now very quickly bring a new finger to the thumb. Okay. Now start to deepen your breath. Breathe into the belly, into the chest, and then into the collarbone and base of throat. So it's a 3-tiered breath. And as you exhale, feel the entire torso withdraw into center line. These are the first 3 fundamentals of your practice, and they are physical. Before the mind can be silenced. In Sanskrit, this effort of silencing the mind is called chitta rahita. Empty the mind. And before the mind can be restrained, chitta vritti narod, restrain your thoughts, the body has to be commanded. Because the mind works through the body. And so let's just spend 2 minutes committing to our posture, holding it, and committing to our stillness by not just restraining movement, but by softening muscles. So stillness is empowered by relaxing your body and then slowing down the breath. Every inhale, consciously recommit to one or all 3 of these efforts. Every time you exhale, appreciate that tiny victory. I recommitted. I'm still in the game. Fostering consciousness. Start to notice the prevalence of thought. The best way to recognize if you're thinking or not is to appreciate if you're optimistic or pessimistic in this moment. Do I like this or do I not like this? Am I open to this or am I rejecting this? And neither is right or wrong. What is right is acknowledging the mind and acknowledging your opinions, acknowledging that subjective reality that you instinctively feel is true, but as a yogi are learning that it is not necessarily true. So there's the mind. The impossible effort of meditation is to literally still that thought process. And so the best ways to do this are to increase sensitivity and appreciation of the body as it is, as it exists. And in that, the natural occurrences, the rising sensations of the body entrance you away from thought. And then the second way is to increase concentration. And very simply, you do that by trying to focus again and again and again, and this builds certain sections of the brain. So we're going to use the mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, chanting, singing, to help us build that sensitivity. As you sing, just feel. Be curious and impressed with the sensations. Notice that that vibration is euphoric. It feels good, even though it's subtle. I'm going to start the chanting, and then you can join along when you're ready. Relax the body. Here we go. Om Namah Shivaya. 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 All right, on your own. About 6 minutes here. Do your best to feel the sensations of vibrating in resonance in your chest and throat. Notice it feels good. You can play with the length of the chant. You can play with the volume. Explore, have fun, and feel. Slow down. Hold the tones for longer and give yourself more time to feel. The second use of mantra is to build physical sensitivity. Now decrease the volume dramatically. The vibration in the throat is reduced, and that's going to force you to feel the body with more focus. And appreciate now through singing that the mantra itself is pulling the mind into your form, into your muscles, and into your tissues. And while naturally there are thorns of expectation and analysis involved, as you learn to remove these thorns and just sing and chant for the sake of singing and chanting, the gravity of the mantra will become more powerful. And the experience of mental silence, chitta rahita, mental emptiness, will become more obvious. Chant one more time, nice and quietly. And then I'd like you to sing the song, sing the mantra in your head. The same cadence, the same melody. And I want you to try to feel and imagine the corresponding vibrations that would come through the chant if you were singing it physically. And if you can feel those vibrations as if you were singing it physically, that is sukshma. That is the vibration. Notice it feels good. Sukh means sweet. It feels good, like a gentle breeze. Now slow down the breath. We're going to use mantra to facilitate concentration. I want you to repeat the mantra very quickly, just like this. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Only in the head. It can be exhausting. The sheer repetition and speed can seem to tire the mind. But in the same way that muscles are strengthened through their fatigue, these specific sections in the brain, the task-oriented network, is being strengthened neurologically because of its use. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. That's it. Feel how the mantra is keeping your thought process at bay. Maybe some thoughts sneak in, but in general, it becomes a barrier. This isn't necessarily meditation. But it is developing the focus necessary to experience meditation. Slow down the breath, soften your face. Alrighty, end the repetition and just work to feel your body as it is. And as you feel your body as it is, as you consider that you are meditating, just appreciate you are internalizing. The more you feel, the more you internalize. The more you internalize, the more your nature is balanced. All right, bring your hands to heart center, relax your shoulder blades down your back, and very patiently and organically repeat the mantra Om Namah Shivaya, but take a couple moments to contemplate what it means. The Om symbol represents that our consciousness is dynamic. We dream, we sleep, and we have unconscious experience. Our perception of life is limited, it's subjective, but at the same time, we have the capacity to experience truth. And to feel all of that is real. That is the Om. Namah Shivaya is to honor the fact that many people have worked to discover this inner experience and master the mind. And Shiva is the fantastical and legendary character of the first. And so here you are in your room, your Monday morning, participating in this extraordinary game that is truly a part of the human experience. We're going to chant one Om together. Let's take a breath in. Thumb knuckles to third eye center. As always, ending with technique, feel the pinch of your thumbs against the skin of your forehead, feel that tingling sensation, and notice how it is similar. It's not the same, but it is similar in terms of vibration, in terms of spanda, to the resonance of your singing. Everything is a wave. Chitta vritti narod. Vritti is wave. Restrain the mind waves. But to do that, first we have to feel them. Let's take one more breath in. One more breath out. Release your wrists to your knees. Stay in a meditative state. And as you open your eyes, I'm no longer meditating. just a refresher, mantra, so the repetition of these words is for contemplation, sensitivity, and then concentration. And so throughout the rest of your day, if you repeat Om Namah Shivaya, it's probably going to be about contemplation. And it's a really cool way to evoke the meaning of these mantras when your eyes are looking out into the world, and your senses are sort of playing along with the external experience. At that point, you start to work both games at once, external and internal, sort of layman or householder, which we all are, and then yogi. And I think that's the true beauty of this practice. We're not trying to be renunciate hermits, I don't think. So we want to take advantage of their discoveries and their insights and then embed it into our being so that we can have best of both worlds, ancient and modern, internal and external, spiritual and material. And in that we become really sort of like complete human beings.